Good morning, my name is Sarah, and today we'll be looking into whether the consumer electronics industry is a strong investment choice for the future. Today we're going to look at the consumer electronics industry through the lens of SONY, a billion-dollar multinational conglomerate headquartered in Tokyo, Japan. The consumer electronics industry is a fast-growing, ever-developing industry with high levels of demand, innovation, and competition. With continuously shifting consumer preferences, as well as high research and development costs and an extensive list of raw materials that go into the production of electronics, it is important for companies like SONY to have an efficient and effective supply chain and logistics process system in order to maintain smooth sailing from production to consumer and ensure their customers' continued satisfaction. A supply chain is a combination of processes, functions, activities, relationships, and pathways among which products, services, information, and financial transactions move in and between enterprises from original producer to ultimate end user or consumer. Sony's supply chain, like most other companies in this industry, is vertically integrated, meaning that they own multiple participants in the supply chain. The first step of the production process involves the mining and procurement of raw materials of the electronics. Given the wide variety of materials that go into each of their products, SONY does not own any mining or procurement companies, therefore meaning this portion of their supply chain is outsourced. Next, the raw materials are sent to SONY production and manufacturing facilities, or in some cases, to the production facilities of its subcontractors. SONY currently owns and operates manufacturing facilities in Brazil, the United Kingdom, China, Thailand, Malaysia, South Korea, and Japan. Once the goods are finished products, they are transported to SONY storage facilities. From there, they are transported to retail stores or directly to consumers if goods are purchased online. For consumers in Australia, for example, where there are no SONY manufacturing plants, the supply chain is much lengthier and thus its efficiency is all the more important. In order to increase the efficiency and effectiveness of supply chains, companies have several options available to them. SONY, for example, has shortened their transportation routes and started using milk runs, whereby trucks that collect parts from several suppliers in each trip, as opposed to separate runs for each supplier. They have also altered the packaging of their final products in order to allow for more inventory to be shipped on each supply run. At the end of the 2019-2020 financial year, SONY had approximately 589 billion yen worth of inventory. With a revenue of 1.5 trillion yen, SONY has an inventory turnover ratio of 2.5. This could mean that they are spending money on storage costs for inventory that is not selling. There are several challenges currently facing the consumer electronics industry. These include growing environmental concerns, increasing consumer awareness of unethical corporate behaviour, and acts of God, taken in this case to include the current global coronavirus pandemic. Consumers are more conscious than ever about the environmental impacts of the products they purchase. Not only is the mining and procurement of the raw materials in electronics damaging to the environment, so too is the discarding and recycling processes of the finished products themselves. Customers are also more likely than ever to boycott companies and products that they deem not ethically acceptable. Companies from Nestlé to Cartier and everything in between have begun to feel the heat from boycotts once their products were deemed to be unethically produced or sourced. Acts of God, such as natural disasters and wars, also present a challenge for consumer electronics industry. Given the global nature of the supply chain of electronics, with parts being sourced from all over the world, there is a higher risk of supply and even demand being adversely impacted. SONY is beginning to tackle these challenges by only using certified green partners to procure raw materials, by setting realistic goals to reduce the environmental impact of their logistics processes, and making their product recycling processes greener as well. They're also working with their suppliers to ensure that set targets are being met for human rights, labour conditions, and health and safety conditions for their employees. In conclusion, SONY's strong supply chain and logistics management and their eye towards tackling the challenges that are presenting in the consumer electronics industry make them a strong candidate for investment. Thank you so much for your time today.